Thank you very much. I just forgot to mention that Avi is an alumni of the Faculty of Engineering. He did his master in the Faculty of Engineering. And this takes me to the next speaker. You know that we have a lot of very talented alumni. By the way, I don't know if all of you know, Tel Aviv University is responsible, alumni of Tel Aviv University are responsible for 25% of the startups in Israel. And one of them is going to speak next, is one of our most talented alumni, Omer Keilaf. Omer studied his first degree and second degree in electrical engineering, and he founded Innoviz, how many years ago? 5 years ago, and the company now worth $1.4 billion, and the rest you will hear from him. Omer, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Yossi. I'm really proud to be here. And by the way, I actually did another degree in Tel Aviv University in the MBA school. So I have. You're right. You're right. Sorry. Okay. Thank you all. So I want to, before I start, I want to do a short demonstration for our technology today. So I'll try to. Let's see, where's the. So this is what you're seeing here is we're talking earlier to the So you were talking earlier about 3D. So this is a 3D camera, as you can see yourself here, and you can see yourself here. Yeah. So this is what you call a LiDAR. So it's basically a laser scanner that scans the scene and creates a 3D video. And by doing that, you can actually see how far things are between the other, and it helps autonomous cars to drive safely. So let me do a zoom here on someone so you can take a picture of yourself in 3D. Okay. So yeah, so this is, you know, it used to be a technology the size of this speaker 5 years ago, and actually the company that was producing those initially started as a speaker company. They produced kind of speakers for computers, Velodyne. Okay, so I was asked to present today with talking about leadership and innovation. It's not something that I do from time to time. So what I was trying to achieve here is maybe just share my kind of like my habits, or maybe the way I manage the company, and how push it to drive innovation. So I'll start by saying the goal of the company. So we're developing a solid state LiDAR. You can see it here. It's a very small device. Basically, it scans the scene and creates 3D. On top of this data, we are also developing the computer vision. So we analyze the data, and we basically provide the car not only the raw data, but also translation of it to objects. Very much like what Mobileye is doing on top of 2D, we're just doing it on top of 3D. We started in 2016. And we raised $9 million, and we built a very big team from day one. I was in the university. I did my first degree when I was before the army. I'm not sure, like reservee kind of student. So after I finished my first degree, I joined a unit called 81, which is from the intelligence force. And I spent there for 7 years, and it's a very amazing school for innovation under very, very, I would say, short time. And really a big part of Innoviz are people that I've met there. And after 7 years there, I was in 3 other startups. One of them was Annobit, that was also founded by Udi Weinstein, and then it was acquired by Apple, and then I was in 2 other startups. The second one was developing a video projector, a Pico projector, based on MEMS. It was acquired by ST Microelectronics, and the third startup was Consumer Physics, which I think also was founded by one of the PhDs from Tel Aviv University. So I started Innoviz, and to solve one of the biggest bottlenecks for autonomous driving, which is the lack of availability of reliable, low-cost LiDARs. You need to have this kind of perception because it gives the car much better information about the surrounding, but also provide redundancy to the camera that find it's very difficult to see the world in low light condition or sometimes saturations. You can still see from time to time accidents of Tesla when they lose sight. And basically for functional safety, which is required for when the car drives itself autonomously, the computer of the car cannot be in a situation where it can't make a decision because it's blurred, the camera is blurred by a drop of water. There should be no single point of failure in the system. And the LiDAR provides redundancy and complementary to the camera, but also the radar. We partnered with several tier ones. Tier ones are companies that are work in this industry to provide parts, very much like how Mobileye interfaces with the market. We have a first design win with BMW. So BMW is really these days using our LiDARs in their program that they plan to launch in the next couple of years for a full level 3 program for series production. It will be the first car that will be sold in publicly. Up until now we raised $250 million, but we just recently went public through a SPAC, which allowed us to raise additional $380 million. Today we are about 300 people. We have an office in Rosh Hain, but we also have an office in Santa Clara and in Munich, working with BMW, and you have some people in some other countries. This is, trying to talk about innovation. When we started the company, we really knew nothing about automotive. I mean, I literally didn't know even the logos. My wife was making fun of me that I'm starting a startup in an industry I know nothing about. But I didn't know how to. I knew nothing about flash memories or pico projectors or molecular sensors before I joined that startup. So what you do is you learn. So you spend some time learning the market requirements. And we've been talking with different customers and trying to understand the different verticals within this industry. And it's split between level 2, level 3, level 4, shuttles, trucks, etc. The first thing that we learned was that what the market really needs is about 2 orders of magnitude much better than the existing LiDARs in the market. The LiDARs that were available, the best-in-class LiDARs 5 years ago, looked like that, but also very expensive. They were like $50,000 or $70,000 for one. But the resolution was also very poor, and the range was also very poor, 80 meters and half a degree. And we thought that if we will make this smaller and cheaper, it will be the best thing in the world. But the market responded in saying, no, we're looking for something which is about 2 orders of magnitude better than those, even if you make it smaller and cheaper. So that was, could have been a shock, and obviously we were in a situation where we had to understand how we're going to solve this problem. So, you have to decide on which of the verticals you want to focus and what are the more likely to happen. The autonomous driving doesn't happen in one day. So we started to take, we made our bet on the passenger car as the most fastest growing market in autonomous driving, and broke down the requirements to the different, really, the LiDAR there are really so many requirements that you need to meet, such as range, resolution, field of view, frame rate, cost, power consumption, reliability, and of course, eventually you also have the time to market. I mean, you don't want to develop something for 10 years from today because you will miss the market. So you take all of those requirements and you lay it on kind of like, okay, so what, how can I really design it? So we started to think about really different ways of how to develop this system, and came to a conclusion that if we take the building blocks for a LiDAR, which is choosing a laser, a detector, processing, optics, etc., we take the technology that is already mature enough to develop this LiDAR, we will never meet the requirements that are needed. And at that point, we started to understand that we need to think outside of the box. Like, let's develop those technologies that will allow us to get there. And you can see I marked in green those that we decided to do ourselves. So we really went into a very, I would say, much more exciting journey in developing core technologies. But of course, you need to take into account that it all has to converge in sufficient time, because if you go into too long of a journey in a research, you end up missing the market. So we've gone through about 5 or 6 different ways of solving it and converge on a certain kind of design, and started a path of about 2 or 3 years of developing these components. And all the time, you need to kind of make sure that you're not, like, you manage those risks, because each of those verticals contains its own risk, and you need to sometimes, use the fact that you're not only playing with one knob, you can actually play with many knobs all together. So it actually helps you to move around some of the problems, and you iterate all the time. You also check that you're not missing of something, and of course the requirements continue to change as time changes as well. And this is like, we took about 3 years as the time for development, knowing that autonomous driving, we started in 2016, and we knew that at that time we need to convert. So we managed to convince BMW, who spent a year of due diligence with us, 2017, that by the time that they will need to launch, we will be able to, not only we need to finish the design of the system and produce the chips and test them and all the system work together. It was quite, I would say, ambitious of them, really taking trust in the team. It was a small team, giving us nomination for series production. And as you might know, in automotive supply chain and meeting the, not stopping the car production because of a single component is a very, very, I would say, complex thing. And eventually, the reason they chose us was because they felt that our strategy is the right one. So they knew all of the technology around in the world, and they thought this technology is the right one, is the one that is going to solve the problem in terms of not only meeting performance, but also cost and size and reliability. And obviously we were very fortunate for being able to work with them. Now, I would say that our way to solve this problem, as I said, we had to solve several magnitude of improvements. Whenever you have a certain plan, when we started, we raised enough money to make some, I would say, more ambitious kind of goals. And every time we have a certain plan which you manage, and there is a kind of a linear growth. You always have to have a non-linear growth. You need to have something which is exponential. You need to have always a way to reach the 10x. Maybe it will not work, but I would say, experience from the last 5 years, once you kind of see that opportunity, first, it gives a lot of excitement to the team. They know that there is something that could become like a huge upside to the company, and they make it work, and they will bring it. And even if it will not be exactly like what you thought it would be, that 10x target, which we set for all the time, gives the team, the ability to experience. And I think you mostly learn from trying and not being afraid for failure. So I can say that many things within this system are a result of things that we kind of throw a stone somewhere very, very far, and it didn't, it still hit something. and we're continuously doing that. So we always have those 10x kind of targets, and it's always a teamwork. For InnovizOne, we had to develop 3 main technologies, which is the MEMS scanner, and a very unique detector for the high resolution, and the ASIC, which is the processor that helps us to to process this data. It's like 52 cores, 16 nanometer. Am I over my time? I'm nowhere. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. I'll try to catch up. Okay. And of course, the computer vision, which is the abstraction layer on top of it. Now, as you can see in this picture, and this is kind of like the 5 generations that we developed in the last 5 years, starting from a tabletop setup that we took outside to test, and this is myself here, and you can see this is what the LiDAR was able. What? Yeah. I don't know what this. Okay. And you can see here, 1 year later, we already packed it into something that could actually mount on a car, and you can see it was a very big box with a very long optics, and we had this working. A year later, we already packed everything into a much smaller box and started to sell it to different customers. And it was actually much better than this. And then we have InnovizOne, which is this product, significantly smaller, cheaper. Every year, it's like we made a significant improvement in performance between 20 or 30 or 40, but also keeping the cost significantly lower. And now, we're working on the 2nd generation, which is going to be available towards the end of this year, which is going to provide another 30 times performance improvement and 70% cost reduction. So, and obviously we're going to continue to push with innovation as part of our, I would say, strategy, and allow autonomous driving to happen. This is the BMW car. This is also from just recently. This is our LiDAR here mounted. It's you should buy this one. Yeah. So obviously we're very proud for being in this car. We also, we're active in many programs. One of them was released just a few weeks ago with Subaru. So there is a autonomous shuttle program that Subaru is working on, and they're going to use it in the Olympics. And obviously, we're very proud for being there, and many other places that we are not sharing yet. A lot of innovation. It's technology is like it's like a spaghetti. It's like there are so many things. I mean that we had to tailor very, very specifically for what we are doing in our system. So it's really a very unique technology that brings talent from any edges of the engineering school, and of course we also have the operations and even drivers for taking the car outside, and annotation and computer vision, optics, and whatever. Really fun activity. So we went public just recently. It was fun. Of course, it's a new start. We raised $380 million, and now we are, I would say, funded for the next year. Kidding, but always like that. You raise money for the next 18 months. No, it is very important to get that funding, because now that we are competing on very meaningful business with car makers, they want to make sure that their supplier is going to be financially robust for the next 15 years, so they can choose them. So I won't dwell too much on this, but again, talking about taking risks and managing them. I mean, it's really easy to take a risk. It's not that easy to manage it, and it's part of the methodologies that we run on how managing risks. So we always have that kind of nonlinear programs, but it does require a lot of attention, because a risk is something that you need to maneuver fast enough to make those decisions, so it will eventually materialize. So I I think part of what we brought from the Army, from 81, was exactly that kind of methodologies of how to drive innovation in a very short time into very, I would say, high requirement of reliability. So, we have a very unique kind of processes around it. Now, in terms of, I would say, I don't know, leadership or kind of way of working, I truly believe that in 2021, and people that work in companies expect to have full transparency. They expect to be a strong part. They want to see the full picture. I keep doing weekly company meetings where we share all of the activities and help people to share their work and feeling part of being a very meaningful part of the company. I think that kind of transparency is always paying back big time in people motivation to make things happen, and it keeps everyone vectors in the same direction. I think that those are things that I at least felt very strongly when I was working in different startups before I started Innoviz. And I think that in 2021, companies like Innoviz have also a social responsibility, and we try to be more active. We're now going to invite science classes from high schools to days in Innoviz. We want to inspire people about technology and get them understand exactly why they want to learn these classes. Well, besides that, I meet every person who comes to the company. For me, it's helpful because I know I get to learn like who are those risk takers and the ones that are going to be excited about my crazy ideas from time to time. I spend half of my days just walking in the company. I would say try to push back meetings. Meetings are things that people are already taking care of, and for me it's always important to make sure that things that are not already on a meeting are not going to be forgotten. So I urge my managers to do the same all the time, telling them like stop having meetings, so many meetings, and make them shorter and spend more time on trying to learn what you don't have on your radar. And I think that maybe it's something that I missed, but I always believe in people that are in our company. They work very hard, really, really, really hard. Autonomous driving sounds like a kind of Harry Potter movie. It's fantasy, Walt Disney, Disneyland. I don't know. Eventually, it's just really very hard work because to make it safe, which this is really the real thing. If people don't feel safe in it, it will not happen. So that is actually very, very, I would say, Sisyphic sometime work of repeatable testing in horrible conditions, and you can imagine how fun it was to work with a German OEM. It's very strict, and I think that for that and going through those very difficult times sometimes, and you have to have that equity of goodwill, because people are not happy if they're not satisfied, don't think that they can grow in the company, and they will never really be able to survive in those situations. I can also tell you that some people that have been really exhausted and at some point decided to leave, we have a lot of people coming back to the company after 6 months because they miss the company, and that's very important. I mean, for me, it's a signal that we are building something good. I'll shorten it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Omer. So you see, it's very beneficial to study at the School of Engineering, first and second degree, and I recommend it. So now we have 20 minutes break, so be here at 10 plus 20 is 12:25. So be here at 12:25. 15 minutes.